The sound came first, a slow hiss like air escaping a long-forgotten room. Then came the cold. It crept through his veins, sharp and biting, until even his heartbeat felt frozen. Ethan's eyes fluttered open, heavy as stone, and the world came back in fragments. White mist, soft blue light, the hum of hidden machines. He gasped, his lungs burning as they filled with air for the first time in how long he didn't know. Everything felt strange. The taste of oxygen, the weight of his body, the ache in his chest. He tried to move, but metal straps held him down. And then, through the fog, he saw a shadow move. A tall figure stepped closer, its shape outlined by the faint glow of the chamber. Its body was slender, skin like flowing silver, eyes large and black like a night sky with no stars. It didn't breathe. It didn't blink. Yet somehow it felt alive. "Careful, human," the voice said, calm, soft, and echoing directly in his mind. "You've been asleep for 20 years. The words hit him like a hammer. 20 years. He tried to speak, but his throat felt dry and broken. What? The being tilted its head slightly as if studying him. "Do not move yet. Your body is fragile. You have slept longer than your kind was meant to." Ethan's breathing quickened. He looked down. Pale skin, thin arms, faint scars where tubes entered his veins. His reflection in the glass panel beside him was that of a stranger. Older, weaker, lost. The creature pressed its hand against a glowing control pad, and the glass lid above him hissed open. The cold air rushed out, replaced by warmth that felt like sunlight after endless winter. He tried to sit up. His muscles shook violently. His vision spun, but he forced himself to rise. Where am I?" The alien stepped back, giving him space. "You are aboard Sanctuary." "A human ark." The words meant nothing to him. "An ark?" he asked weakly. "Yes," it replied, its voice as steady as the hum of the machines. "A vessel built to preserve what remained of your species after the fall." Ethan's heart stopped for a second. "The fall?" The alien's dark eyes softened. "You do not remember?" He searched his mind, but all he found were flashes. Fire swallowing cities, people screaming, skies turning red, the smell of smoke and fear. Then darkness, endless peaceful darkness, and now, this. He looked around the chamber. The walls curved like the inside of a shell. Along both sides stood dozens of other pods, silent and sealed. Inside each one lay a human, still pale and dreaming, hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. "What happened to Earth?" he whispered. The alien, the overseer, didn't answer right away. Instead, it touched a small screen near the wall. Images flickered to life. Cities in ruins, oceans boiling, storm clouds made of ash. Then nothing but silence and stars. "Your home did not survive," the alien said quietly. "When your wars consumed the skies and your sickness spread across the continents, your leaders called for help. My people answered. We could not save your world, but we saved some of you." Ethan stared at the images until his eyes blurred. His voice broke when he spoke again. "So everyone is gone?" "Not everyone," said the alien. 600 remain here in Sanctuary. You are the first to wake," he swallowed hard. His mouth tasted of metal and grief. "Why me?" The overseer's gaze met his. "Because your mind survived intact. You will help us understand your kind. You may help them when they awaken." Ethan tried to stand but stumbled. The alien reached out a thin silver arm and steadied him. Its touch was cold but gentle. "Careful," it repeated softly. "Your muscles have forgotten the world." He nodded slowly, his voice trembling. "I don't even know who I am anymore." The overseer tilted its head again, almost in curiosity. "You are human, that is enough for now." For a long moment, they stood in silence, a man reborn from ice and an alien shaped by light. Outside the curved window of the chamber, the stars drifted past, slow and silent. Ethan stared at them, and deep inside something stirred, a mix of sorrow and wonder. He didn't know what had happened to the Earth he once knew. He didn't know why this creature had saved him. But one thing was clear. The world he would wake into was not the same one he had left behind. And as he stood there, trembling but alive, he whispered to himself, 20 years. Gone. The alien turned its dark eyes toward him and said softly, "Yes, human. 20 years since the old world died, and 20 years since your new one began." Ethan woke again to the soft hum of the ship. He was no longer inside the freezing pod. Instead, he lay on a narrow bed inside a clean white room. The air smelled faintly sweet like metal mixed with flowers. Strange lights glowed softly from the ceiling. For a long while, he just stared at his hands, thin, pale, trembling slightly. They didn't look like his own. His veins were visible under the skin. His body felt weak, but his mind was racing. 20 years. The world gone. Earth destroyed. When the door slid open, the alien from before entered quietly. Its steps were smooth, almost floating. It carried a small tray with a clear drink that shimmered like starlight. "You are awake again," it said gently. "That is good." Ethan sat up slowly. "You're Vera, right? The overseer?" The creature nodded. "Yes, Overseer Vera. I am responsible for maintaining the sanctuary and the humans who rest within." Ethan accepted the glass it offered. The drink was cool and the taste reminded him of rain. "You said there are others like me," he said after a pause. "How many?" 600, Vera replied. "All sleeping. You were the first to wake because your body endured the cryostasis better than the others." He lowered the glass, staring at the floor. "So, I'm the first human alive in 20 years. In 107 years, Vera corrected calmly. Ethan looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" "You said 20. Time aboard the sanctuary moves differently. When we travel between systems, space folds. For you, it felt like 20 years. In the universe beyond, more than a century has passed." The realization hit him hard. A century. Everyone he had ever known, gone long before. The world he remembered wasn't just destroyed. It was ancient history. Ethan pressed his hands over his face. "God, I don't even know why I'm here. Why did you save us?" Vera tilted its smooth head as if studying his pain. "When our ships found Earth, your people were dying. Yet, even in ruin, you looked to the sky sending messages, hoping someone would hear. We heard. We could not ignore that kind of hope." Ethan lowered his hands slowly. "So you pitied us?" "No," Vera said softly. "We admired you. Most species accept extinction. Yours fought against it until your last breath." Ethan didn't know what to say. He looked at the alien's face when expressionless yet sincere. There was something gentle about its presence, something that felt almost protective. "Vera," he said after a long silence, "are there others like you on this ship?" "There were," Vera replied, "but many left when our mission changed. Now I remain to guide and guard the humans until your kind can stand again." Ethan stood shakily, using the wall for support. "And what happens then?" "Then my duty will be fulfilled." The words carried a strange weight, one that made Ethan's chest tighten. "You talk like you won't be there when that happens." Vera looked away, its silver skin reflecting the soft blue light. "Perhaps not. My existence was not meant for forever." They walked together down a long corridor. The walls were lined with glowing panels and gentle sounds like heartbeats echoing in the distance. Through a large window, Ethan could see the rows of sleeping humans, men, women, children, all frozen in quiet dreams. He pressed a hand to the glass. "They look peaceful." "They are," said Vera. "But when they wake, they will face a world that no longer belongs to them." Ethan turned toward the alien. "And what about Earth? Is there nothing left?" Vera paused for a moment before answering. "There is only dust. The oceans boiled. The air burned. The sickness consumed all that lived. Your planet sleeps now like your people, but unlike you, it will not wake again." Ethan's throat tightened. He had expected it, yet hearing it aloud broke something inside him. For a moment he imagined the places he once knew. The smell of wet soil after rain, the laughter of crowds, the warmth of sunlight on his skin. All gone. He leaned against the glass, his voice barely a whisper. "Then what's the point? Why wake us if everything is dead?" Vera stepped closer. "Because life does not end when a world does. It continues if it dares to. The sanctuary searches for a new home, a place where your kind may begin again." Ethan looked up, eyes wet. "And you think we deserve that?" "I do not think in terms of deserve," Vera said quietly. "I only think in terms of possible." The words hung in the air like a soft promise. Ethan watched the stars outside the window, thousands of them, bright and endless. Somewhere out there, maybe there was a place waiting for humanity. He took a slow, deep breath. "Then I'll help. However I can." Vera's black eyes blinked once, the alien's version of a smile. Then perhaps, human, this time your species will not fall asleep to its own destruction. And for the first time since he woke, Ethan felt something fragile stir inside him. Not fear, not sorrow, hope. Ethan slowly began to adjust to life aboard the sanctuary. The first few days were the hardest. His body ached with every step, and his mind struggled to accept a truth that felt too big to fit inside him. A century gone, Earth dead, and humanity reduced to sleeping ghosts. Every morning, Vera would appear in the doorway, silent, graceful, and watchful. The alien never seemed to tire, never showed emotion. Yet there was something calm and patient in the way it looked at him. Sometimes Ethan thought Vera might even care. They spent long hours walking through the quiet halls of the ship. Everything hummed softly, alive with a strange rhythm. The walls glowed faintly blue, the air always clean and still. Ethan would ask questions and Vera would answer. Always calm, always precise. One day, as they passed a long corridor filled with glowing pods, Ethan stopped to look at the people frozen inside. There were men and women, old and young, each face perfectly still. Some looked peaceful. Others looked as if they had been afraid when they fell asleep. He placed his hand against the glass of one pod. Inside lay a young boy, maybe 15 years old. His hair floated slightly in the preservation fluid. "Do you know their names?" Ethan asked quietly. "Yes," Vera replied. "All are recorded. Families, soldiers, scientists. You were chosen from a group known as the Continuation Program. People who volunteered to be preserved in case Earth did not survive." Ethan frowned. "Volunteered? I don't remember that." Vera's gaze lowered slightly. "Many memories fade after cryostasis. But it is true. You chose this." Ethan tried to remember, but all he saw in his mind were broken flashes. A dark sky, the sound of sirens, his mother's face turning away. A small metal door closing. Then nothing. He turned back to Vera. "Tell me what happened. To Earth." The alien's body shimmered faintly as if the question stirred something inside. "You called it the resource war. Your nations fought over the last clean water and food. Then came the sickness, a virus that spread faster than your species could cure it. Cities burned to stop its reach, but fire only took more lives. When we arrived, your people had already turned their weapons toward the sky." Ethan's heart felt heavy. "You saw it happen?" "I saw the end," Vera said softly. "Your world was beautiful once. Oceans of blue, forests of gold. I studied your art and music while we worked to save you. Even in your final moments, you created songs of hope. That is what made me stay." Ethan blinked, surprised. "You liked our music?" Vera tilted its head. "It was honest, full of pain and light. Your kind has a way of singing even when it hurts." Ethan smiled faintly. "Yeah, we always did." They walked on in silence. The sound of their footsteps echoed softly like whispers from another time. Later that night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat by the large window near his quarters, staring at the stars. Each one looked so far away, so untouchable. He wondered if anyone else anywhere still looked up the same way, full of questions, full of hope. When Vera entered quietly, Ethan didn't turn around. "Do you ever wonder why you saved us?" he asked. Vera stopped behind him. "It was our duty." "No," Ethan said, shaking his head. "Duty is what you do because you must. Saving us, that feels like something else." The alien paused, then walked closer. "Perhaps curiosity," it admitted. "Perhaps guilt. My kind once believed we should not interfere with others. But when we saw what you had become, both your brilliance and your destruction, we realized we were wrong to stay silent." Ethan looked over his shoulder. "And now you're stuck watching over The Last of Us." "I am not stuck," Vera replied softly. "I chose this as you once did." Something about those words made Ethan's chest ache. For a moment he didn't see an alien. He saw someone, something, trying to keep a dying hope alive. He stood up slowly, his legs still weak but steady. "If we find a new world, what happens then?" Vera looked out the window with him. "Then I will leave you to build again. My task will be done." Ethan's voice trembled. "And if we fail again?" The alien turned to face him. "Then your story will still be worth telling." For a long moment neither spoke. Only the stars filled the silence, bright, distant, and eternal. Ethan closed his eyes, breathing slowly. In that quiet he could almost hear Earth again. The wind, the laughter, the waves. He opened his eyes and whispered, "I won't let it end like before." Vera looked at him, its dark eyes shining faintly. Then perhaps, human, you are finally awake. Ethan's recovery had grown steady. His body still ached, but each day he walked a little farther through the endless metal halls of the sanctuary. Sometimes he would stop and listen to the sounds, the soft hum of the ship's heart, the distant rhythm of the engines pulsing like a living creature. It was strange to think that this machine had become his home, the cradle of what was left of humanity. One day, as Ethan finished a small meal inside the observation room, Vera entered. The alien's movements were silent, its silver form glinting under the blue light. "You are strong enough now," Vera said. "There is something I wish to show you." Ethan looked up curiously. "Show me." Vera turned toward the corridor. "Follow." He did. They walked through long tunnels past hundreds of pods glowing like stars in the dimness. Each one still held a sleeping human, frozen in peaceful dreams. Ethan's heart felt heavy every time he passed them. All those lives, he thought. All those stories waiting to wake. Finally, they reached a door taller than any he had seen. It hissed open slowly, and as the light flooded in, Ethan stopped breathing for a moment. Before him stretched an enormous window. No, a wall of transparent glass, looking out into the endless dark of space. He had seen the stars from his room before, but never like this. Here they were alive. Millions of them burned in the black ocean, brighter and more beautiful than anything he remembered from Earth's night sky. Ethan stepped closer, his reflection shining faintly against the glass. It's beautiful," he whispered. Vera stood beside him. "You are looking at the edge of your former galaxy. Sanctuary has traveled far beyond the stars of your birth." Ethan turned sharply. "Beyond, you mean? This isn't the Milky Way." The alien nodded slowly. "We passed its boundaries decades ago. What you see now are the stars of another spiral. We have crossed the void." Ethan stared, his heart pounding. "You mean humanity left its own galaxy?" "Yes," Vera said softly. "You are the first of your kind to stand so far from home." The thought made him dizzy. He pressed his hand against the cold glass and stared out. All his life, or what felt like his life, Earth had been the center of everything. Humanity had dreamed of space but never truly belonged to it. And now they were wanderers among unknown stars. "Why come this far?" he asked finally. "The nearby systems were poisoned or barren," Vera explained. "We searched for worlds where your species could breathe, grow, and rebuild. The farther we traveled, the more silence we found. Until we left the home of your son behind." Ethan's throat tightened. "So we're really alone now?" Vera's black eyes turned toward him, soft and calm. "Not alone. You have each other. And me." The simple words touched something deep inside him. He smiled weakly. "You say that like it's enough." Vera turned its gaze back to the stars. "For survival it is. For meaning, perhaps you must decide that yourself." Ethan looked at the stars again, his chest filled with a strange ache, sadness, wonder, and something more powerful than both. "I wish I could tell my people we made it this far. They dreamed about the stars, but they never got to see them." Vera's voice softened. "You can tell them. When they wake, you will be the one to guide them. You will show them the sky they once reached for." He swallowed hard. "I'm not a leader, Vera. I'm just someone who woke up first." The alien's tone turned quiet, almost kind. "That is how leaders are often chosen. By circumstance, not by choice." Ethan said nothing for a while. The stars reflected in his eyes, endless and bright. "Maybe that's the reason I survived," he murmured. "To remind us why we fought to live." Vera tilted its head slightly, almost like a nod. "Perhaps. You humans have a strange gift. Even when everything is lost, you still believe in tomorrow." Ethan let out a faint laugh. "We're stubborn like that." They stood side by side, silent, staring at the stars. One human, one alien, both survivors of worlds that no longer existed. After a long moment, Ethan spoke again. "Vera, if we find a world out there, what will happen to you?" Vera hesitated, the silver shimmer of its body dimming slightly. "My purpose is tied to this ship. When Sanctuary finds a safe world for humanity, my mission ends." Ethan's heart tightened. "Ends? You mean you'll stop?" The alien's voice grew softer than ever. "I will rest. As your kind does when its work is done." Ethan looked at it, sadness filling his eyes. "But you saved us." You can't just disappear. Vera's gaze met his. If I fade knowing your species has begun again, then I will have lived with purpose. Outside, a comet streaked across the stars, a flash of light in the endless dark. Ethan followed it with his eyes and whispered, "Then we'll make it worth it. Vera, we'll make sure your sacrifice means something." The alien's eyes glowed faintly, and for the first time, Ethan thought he saw a hint of emotion, a quiet pride. "Then perhaps," Vera said softly, "humanity still deserves the stars." It had been many weeks since Ethan first saw the stars beyond the galaxy. Life aboard the sanctuary had grown quieter now. Each day followed a rhythm, walking through the silent corridors, listening to the hum of the ship, and speaking with Vera about what humanity once was. Sometimes, Ethan would stop near the cryo chambers and watch the sleeping faces. He wondered what dreams they were having. Maybe they still saw Earth, green fields, blue skies, people laughing without fear. He always whispered the same thing when he passed them. "Hold on. You'll wake soon." But one night everything changed. Ethan was resting in his small room when an alarm suddenly echoed through the halls. The calm blue lights turned red, flashing wildly. The sound was sharp and urgent, the kind that made the heart race instantly. He jumped up. "Vera?" The alien's voice answered through the speaker, calm but tight. "Remain where you are, human." "What's happening?" Ethan shouted, already moving toward the door. "One of the cryo chambers has activated early. The process is unstable. It may collapse." Ethan didn't stop. He ran down the corridor, ignoring Vera's warning. The floor vibrated softly under his bare feet, and a cold mist filled the air ahead. When he reached the cryo section, he saw bright light flashing from one of the pods. Vera stood beside it, its silver hands moving quickly across the control panels. Sparks burst from the side of the pod. Inside, a figure was thrashing violently, eyes open in panic. A young woman, pale, terrified, gasping for breath. "Her heart rate is dropping," Vera said sharply. "She is not ready. The body cannot handle the shock." Ethan moved forward. "Then help her." "I am trying," Vera replied. "But her mind is unstable. The reawakening is incomplete." Ethan pressed a hand against the glass, trying to see through the fog. The woman's eyes met his for a moment. Wide, confused, desperate. Something in that look cut deep into him. "Open it," he said. Vera turned sharply. "That could kill her. Leaving her in there will kill her faster," Ethan shouted back. For the first time, Vera hesitated. It looked at the human's face, fierce, alive, refusing to give up. Then it touched the console. With a hiss, the pod unlocked. The glass slid open, releasing a burst of cold mist. The woman fell forward, coughing, trembling. Ethan caught her before she hit the floor. Her skin was freezing cold, her breathing shallow. "Hey," he whispered, holding her close. "You're safe. You're okay. Just breathe. You're not alone." Her eyes darted around, terrified. "Oh, where am I?" she gasped. "On the sanctuary," Ethan said softly. "You're with us now." Her breathing slowed slightly. Her hands gripped his shirt like she was afraid he'd disappear. Vera crouched beside them, scanning her vitals. "Her body is stabilizing," it said quietly. "Your presence?" It calmed her. Ethan looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" "Human minds link through emotion," Vera explained. "Fear, comfort, trust." Your voice anchored her consciousness. "I have seen this before, and the connection between your kind is strong." Ethan smiled faintly. "Guess we still need each other even after 100 years. The woman began to breathe more evenly, her trembling slowly fading. Her eyes were still full of confusion, but there was a flicker of recognition in them, a sign that she was truly awake. Ethan helped her sit up carefully. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, her lips trembling. "Lila," she whispered. "Lila," he repeated softly. "I'm Ethan. You've been asleep for a long time. But you're safe now." Her eyes filled with tears. Is this real?" "I thought I was dreaming. I saw fire, and then nothing." Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to tell her everything, but the truth was too heavy for her fragile state. "Rest," he said gently. "You don't need to remember yet." She nodded weakly and leaned against him, exhausted. Vera watched them quietly, its dark eyes unreadable. "You risked much," it said finally. If she had not survived, Ethan looked up. "Then at least I would have tried." Vera's gaze lingered on him for a moment longer. "You are beginning to act as a leader should." Ethan blinked. Leader, I just helped someone. Exactly, Vera replied. That is what your kind once forgot. That survival is not strength alone, but compassion. Ethan looked at Lila, still holding on to him, her breathing steady now. Then maybe that's how we start again, he said quietly. By remembering how to care. Vera gave a slow, almost human nod. Perhaps humanity has another chance after all. The red lights finally faded back to calm blue. The hum of the ship returned to its usual rhythm. But for Ethan, something had changed forever. He looked down at Lila, the first other human he'd seen, awake, and felt something new rising inside. Him responsibility, hope, and, for the first time since waking up from the long, cold sleep, he no longer felt alone. Days passed since Lila's awakening, and the sanctuary felt different now. Where silence once ruled, there was now the soft sound of voices, two humans talking, sharing stories, and remembering pieces of a forgotten world. Ethan spent most of his time beside Lila, helping her walk, eat, and adjust to the strange new reality. Her body was still weak, trembling often, but her spirit burned quietly behind tired eyes. Every morning she asked the same question. Is this really the future? And every morning Ethan gave the same gentle answer. Yes, but we'll make it our own. Vera observed them from a distance, silently recording their interactions. The alien overseer didn't interfere much now. It seemed thoughtful. Sometimes Ethan caught Vera staring, as if trying to understand something it had never known. Human closeness. One day Lila asked to see the stars. Ethan led her to the observation deck, helping her lean against the glass wall that overlooked the endless void. Outside, space shimmered with distant galaxies, blue, silver, gold. The view stretched so far that it made the heart ache. Lila's eyes filled with tears. It's beautiful, she whispered. But it feels so empty, Ethan nodded. Yeah, I used to feel that way too. Then I met Vera, now you. She turned to him. Do you miss it? Earth, he hesitated. Every day. Lila closed her eyes. I remember the wind, the smell of rain, my mother's voice. It's like little sparks of memory coming back. She smiled sadly. I didn't think I'd ever feel them again. Ethan looked at her gently. Maybe we can bring some of that back here. Even a small piece, she laughed softly, her first real laugh since waking up. You think we can make a home in the middle of space? Home isn't a place, Ethan said quietly. It's the people you share it with. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The stars shimmered across their faces. In that silent beauty, the emptiness didn't seem so heavy anymore. Later, Vera joined them on the deck. Its glowing eyes flickered between the two humans. I have studied many species, it said calmly. None have survived by feeling as deeply as you do. Yet somehow it gives you strength. Lila smiled faintly. Feelings make us human. Vera tilted its head. They also make you vulnerable. Ethan stepped forward. Maybe. But sometimes being vulnerable is how we grow. Vera paused. Your logic confuses me, but it also intrigues me. It looked out at the stars. If more humans could feel as you do, perhaps your world would not have fallen. Ethan's expression darkened. What really happened to Earth, Vera? The alien hesitated, its calm voice softer now. Your people destroyed much. Wars, greed, pollution. But there were also sacrifices. Humans who tried to save what was left. Those were the ones chosen for cryosleep. So we're the last ones, Lila whispered. The last, Vera confirmed. But not the end. Ethan clenched his fists. Then let's make sure it's not. Help us wake the others. Humanity deserves another chance. Vera studied him silently for a few seconds. You wish to lead them? Ethan's eyes met Vera's. No. I just want them to live. The alien's glowing eyes softened. Very well, human. I will assist. The following days became a rhythm of hope and effort. Ethan and Lila worked together, she learning faster each day, growing stronger. Together with Vera, they carefully prepared the cryopods of others. Not all could be saved. Some pods had decayed over the long decades. Each loss weighed heavily on Ethan's heart once. When one pod failed and the human inside did not survive, Lila found him sitting alone in the dark corridor, hands over his face. You can't save everyone, she whispered. Sitting beside him, I know, Ethan said, his voice breaking. But I wanted to. She gently placed a hand over his. Then save the ones who can still open their eyes. That's enough. He looked up at her, eyes wet. How do you stay so calm? Because I'm not alone anymore, she said softly. For a long moment he said nothing. He just looked at her, the quiet strength in her tired face, the warmth in her small smile. It reminded him of something humans had nearly forgotten. Tenderness, connection, the reason they kept fighting even when all seemed lost. One evening, as the ship drifted through the silver clouds of a nebula, Ethan stood by the glass wall again. Lila joined him, her hand brushing lightly against his. Do you think we'll find a world someday? She asked softly. Ethan nodded. Yeah, and when we do, we'll make it better this time. Her fingers curled around his. Then promise me something, she said. No matter what happens, don't stop believing. Ethan turned to her, smiling faintly. I won't. Not as long as you're here. Outside, the nebula glowed like a living flame, painting their faces in soft light. In that moment, the stars no longer looked cold. They looked alive, like hope itself. Weeks turned into months aboard the sanctuary. What once felt like a lonely tomb had slowly begun to feel like a heartbeat, faint but alive. Ethan, Lila, and Vera worked side by side, reawakening the remaining humans. Some survived, some did not. Every success brought tears of joy. Every loss left a quiet ache. But the balance was changing. There were now more than 30 awakened humans walking the halls of the ship, men and women from different times, different nations, all trying to understand a world that no longer existed. Ethan became their voice. He didn't plan to be a leader, but people naturally turned to him. His calm tone, his steady eyes, the way he listened, and it reminded them of something they had lost long ago. Trust. Vera guided them, teaching them about the alien technology, about the stars, about the centuries that had passed. The humans learned fast, building, repairing, adapting. For the first time in 100 years, laughter echoed through the metallic corridors. Still, something troubled Ethan. The ship's energy core was weakening. Vera had warned him. The sanctuary could not last forever. The reactor is old, Vera explained one night. Its cells will fail soon. We may not have more than a year. Ethan stared at the glowing console. And when it fails, the systems will die. Life support will end. Lila was beside them, her face pale. Can we fix it? Vera shook its head. Not with what remains, but there may be another way. It pointed to a map projected before them, a cluster of stars glowing in the darkness. One of them was marked in gold. There, Vera said, a planet once known as Novus 3. It was part of our exploration route. Oxygen-rich, stable atmosphere water. If we can reach it, humanity can begin again. Ethan's eyes lit with determination. Then that's where we'll go. The journey took months. The sanctuary drifted through silent space, carried by hope and old engines. The humans worked together, repairing the navigation systems, gathering supplies, preparing for descent. Every day, Ethan reminded them of why they were fighting to survive. We're not the last humans, he told them. We're the first of a new beginning. His words gave them strength. Even Vera, once emotionless, seemed moved by their spirit. Sometimes it stood by the glass and watched the humans laugh, its expression unreadable. Your kind amazes me, it said quietly one evening. You fall, you break, you lose everything. And still you reach for the light. Ethan smiled softly. That's just who we are. When the planet finally came into view, the entire crew gathered in the observation hall. Outside, a blue and green sphere floated among the stars. Oceans shimmered like jewels. Clouds drifted lazily and sunlight painted the horizon gold. It was beautiful. It looked almost like Earth. Lila's eyes filled with tears. It feels like coming home. Ethan's voice trembled as he whispered, We made it. But before they could celebrate, the ship shuddered violently. The lights flickered, alarms blared. The reactor had reached its limit, core overload, Vera warned. We must evacuate now. Humans ran through the halls, securing escape pods. The ground trembled as explosions echoed deep below. Ethan stayed behind with Vera to help guide the last group. Lila shouted, Ethan, we have to go. Not yet, he called back. The others need time. Vera's voice turned sharp. The core will breach in minutes. You must leave. Ethan looked at the frightened faces of the people he had saved, then at Lila, her eyes begging him not to stay. He turned to Vera. You said humans survive because of what's inside them. Now it's your turn to believe that. Vera hesitated, and for the first time its calm voice broke. Human, I do not wish to lose you. Ethan smiled faintly. Then make sure they live. That's how I stay. He pressed the final sequence on the panel. The escape pods launched one by one, drifting toward the glowing planet below. Lila's pod was among them. Through the small window she saw Ethan standing in the control chamber, surrounded by fire and light. His figure was still, his eyes fixed on the stars. Then, the sanctuary burst into light, a silent explosion across the black sky. When Lila awoke, she was lying on soft grass. Warm sunlight touched her face. The air was fresh and sweet. Around her, other survivors were rising, confused, amazed, crying. Above them, the golden sun of Novus 3 burned brightly. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "Ethan, we're here." Vera stood nearby, its silver form dimmer now, damaged but alive. "He saved us all," it said quietly. Lila nodded, tears falling silently. "He saved humanity." Vera looked toward the horizon. "He believed you could build again. Do not waste his faith." Lila smiled through her tears. "We won't." That night, as the survivors built fires and looked at the stars, Lila sat alone for a moment. She whispered softly, as if speaking to the heavens, "We're alive, Ethan. We'll build a world that's kind, one you would have been proud of." Above, among the countless stars, a small streak of light crossed the sky, bright, brief, beautiful, and in that moment, Lila smiled. Because she knew Ethan was watching.